Hey guys, welcome to today's video where I'm going to be revisiting a player that I've already talked about on this channel before. His name is Mateus Asato, and I made a video about this dude a while back, and I remember struggling to think of exactly which techniques and concepts I should include in that lesson because there's just so many cool things that go into this guy's playing that when combined make his playing sound the way it does. So today I'm going to be specifically talking about the types of intervals that Mateus likes to use in his playing to harmonize his lead lines with, specifically referring to thirds and sixths. If you don't know what thirds and sixths are, don't worry, it's actually very simple and I will explain it further on in the video, but for now, here's a lick that I've come up with in the style of Mateus's playing that demonstrates exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm going to play that lick a few more times for you guys. I'm going to slow it way down and put some tabs on screen so that if you want to learn it note for note, then you can do that. And then after I've done that, I'm going to explain what's happening theory-wise with regards to the intervals used in this lick. Alright, now let's talk about what's actually happening here with regards to thirds and sixths. Those are what's known as intervals, and an interval is just the space between two notes in a particular scale. In the context that we're using them in here, the interval can be measured from any one of the notes in the scale. In this case, we're using the D major scale, so if I want to add a third to the root of that scale, which would be the note D, what I do is I recognize the note D as number 1, and then I would play up the scale. I would ascend the scale whilst counting up to 3. So I would simply go 1, 2, 3, and now I have my third. 1, 2, 3. So I can add that note to the root note to get a third at the same time. And I can do that for any one of the notes in the scale. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. You get the idea. So what you can do to practice finding thirds is take any position of the major scale like this one here. Pick the note that you want to harmonize, recognize that as number 1, and then ascend the scale until you reach number 3. And then once you've found the third, if it's not already there, you want to add it to the string adjacent to the one that you're harmonizing. And the reason I point that out is because what if you're playing, a position of the scale that has 3 notes on one string? For example, in this D major scale position, on the B string here, not just the B string, but I'm just using this as an example. On the B string, we have 3 notes. So if I want to harmonize this note here, I would go 1, 2, 3. But then how do I create a harmony with that? How do I play that and that at the same time? Well, you're going to have to find this note on the next adjacent string. So that's a note A. So I know that there's an A here on the high E string, so I can just play it there instead. So you can find the third here, 1, 2, 3, but you have to recognize that in order to play those two notes at the same time, you're going to have to move the third to the adjacent string. So that's generally the most ergonomic way to play thirds on the guitar, is to play them on adjacent strings like the low E and the A string, or the G and B strings. So that's what I did at the start of the lick that we just went over. I played a bunch of thirds on the G and B strings. And in case anyone's wondering about the gear that I'm using in this video, I'm using my Fender Custom Shop Strat loaded with DiMarzio Cruiser pickups, running into my pedal board, and I am using the Strymon Blue Sky for reverb, the JHS Bonsai as an overdrive, the Walrus Audio ARP 87 as a delay, a Fender The Benz compressor. All of that is running into my Universal Audio Apollo Twin Quad interface, running an amp emulation of a Fuchs Overdrive Supreme. The process is exactly the same for finding sixths, only you count up to 6 from your starting note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, when it comes to playing sixths, I always play them so that I'm skipping a string. For example, here you can see that I have the root note D on the G string, and the sixth of that is on the high E string. So I'm not playing anything on the B string, which is in between those two strings. I'm skipping that, but I'm using my middle finger on my fretting hand to mute it. So if I pick the B string there accidentally, it will just sound as a mute and you won't hear the open string. And that's really easy to do, to mute that open B string or whatever string it is that you need to mute. You just have to take your middle finger, or whatever finger that you're using to play the sixth with, and fret the note that you want to fret, but also rest the side of the tip of your finger against the string that you don't want to be playing. Why do I insist on playing them this way? Because it's more comfortable to slide between them. Like we did in that lick that we went over at the start of the video. Now, there's a lot more to intervals and the major scale than what I'm showing you here in this video, and having a solid understanding of both of those things will absolutely increase your ability to be able to pick these things up on your own. So if you want to fast track that process, I'd recommend checking out my online guitar courses, which are linked in the description below. With those links, you can save up to 50%, so check them out if you are interested. Alright folks, before I wrap this video up, I want to show you one more lick that I've come up with in the style of Mateus Asato's playing. It makes use of thirds, sixths, and another type of interval that I went over in the first video I made about Mateus's playing, fourths. Here's the lick. Here's that same lick, but slowed down. So we start with this really simple run up to our first set of thirds. And then I play some thirds on the D and G strings using just my index and middle fingers. And I'm using just those fingers because, as you can hear and as you can see, I'm sliding between those thirds. So I only pick those strings once and use slides to play the other thirds. Then we have more thirds on the G and B strings, which are kind of similar to the lick that we looked at near the start of the video. And immediately after that, we introduce fourths. Now, fourths are something that, as I mentioned earlier, I went over in the first video that I made about Mateus's playing style, so go and check that out if you're interested in learning more about fourths and how to use them in your improvisational playing. Then to finish the lick, you do this. So there's a fourth here with fret 7 on the D and G strings. Although I sort of look at that as more of a first inversion D major triad, because it's preceded by this fret 9 on the A string, which you could leave that to ring out into those notes if you wanted to. And then the very last part of the lick is introducing sixths. So we go like this. And all that is fret 9 on the G string with fret 10 on the A string. So that's your first sixth, and all you have to do there is just pick it and then slide it up by 2 frets. And you're done. Okay guys, that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you feel like you learned something valuable today. And again, if you want to know more about intervals and the major scale and how to use those two things to actually advance your guitar playing, links to my online courses are in the description below. Out of interest, what is your favorite Mateus Asato solo or lick? You can let me know by leaving a comment below and I'll check them out. And as always, if you have suggestions for future content you would like to see on this channel, you can also leave a comment below and I'll check your suggestions out. If you guys enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up, share it with your guitar playing friends, and click subscribe for more. See you guys in the next one.